Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah alhamdulillah. So I'm continuing this discussion on Islam and economics, Islam and capitalism. Opening with a statement, that Islam is neither capitalist nor libertarian. And the reason I'm saying this is that most Muslims are confused on this issue. And I mean that includes scholars. But I know that in recent years there's been somehow, you know how things happen among Muslims. You know, something starts and it becomes a trend and then it spreads like fire. And among Muslims, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, it's complete garbage. It should have never been passed from one person to another. But the problem is that 999 out of 1,000 Muslims have not studied Islam. And even today's scholars have really just minimal qualifications, and especially when it comes to something that you need to understand as deeply as economics and how capitalism actually works. Even most scholars are going to make mistakes if they get into this subject. Capitalism is cruel. It's a system of exploitation. And libertarianism is the cruelest. It's the cruelest. I have no idea how this garbage got spread among Muslims, but I know of one assistant imam or whoever he is who's been teaching this. But I'm gonna go into it and I'm gonna show what's wrong with it. And this is just a summary. I teach classes on the entire subject. My degree is in economics. And I'm going to show that the default state of capitalism is failure and non-existence. There's a huge mythology that most people believe in, that capitalism was a natural occurrence and is the natural state of things, people just doing business. It is not. It is entirely fabricated. And if it were not for constantly being propped up and constant exploitation and literal thievery, it would cease to exist. And I'm going to show that. All right? Now, of course, anybody who reads the Quran, reads a hadith, reads fiqh books, we know that there's talk about the market, But there is a huge difference between market, in Islam, souk, a place where people go to buy things or buy and sell, trade, and the concept of market under capitalism. These are not the same. They're not even close. All right? You have to understand where the capitalist market began and how it actually operates, so that you can see you don't compare these two things. The difference between tijara, trade in Islam, and capitalism, they're not the same. They're not the same. Trade among all peoples in the world, when you get outside of capitalism, then what do you have? people produce things and sell them, okay? Or a certain area, the people are known to produce something. Could be cotton, could be coffee beans, could be, farm animals, all right? Could be wheat. And someone travels there, makes a purchase, and then travels back where they can enter a market and sell what they have bought for a profit. Okay, that is trade. Okay, that is not how capitalism operates. Okay, uh, I'm gonna go into understanding how capitalism actually operates. Okay, will be later in this series. But understand also that in trade and market, okay, in Islam, okay, there would be no monopoly. Okay, if you have a market, you won't have just someone who went out into the world and bought all the wheat in the world and then came to the market and they're the only one selling it. Okay, but you'll find that in capitalism, or what we call an oligopoly, which is just a few producers, a few corporations who control the entire commodity. Okay, you won't find that in traditional markets. Okay, the market of capitalism is not the same thing. Um, but also understand, because when I talk about the cruelty of capitalism, that it has a cruel nature to it. It's built in, okay? And whereas in Islam you have morals, you have morality, and you have laws that regulate behaviors, the corporation has none, okay? They are literally set up to be completely cold, not just amoral, but immoral. Because the only rule, really, that they have to follow is to seek profit. And when I talk about later about how they do that, then you'll understand the cruelty of it. But you can understand right now that it doesn't have anything to do with morality. Therefore, it can't have anything to do with Islam. All right? That's just straight off the bat. Now, in current political discussion and in our social discussion, you have a lot of comparisons, okay? Libertarianism and capitalism as opposed to socialism or communism, all right? Even discussing that, you'll find much more evidence towards social benefit, which means socialism, okay, than you will for something like libertarianism, all right? There's a verse in the Quran in Surah Yasin. Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله طعامه. Okay? Allah says, when it is said to them, spend from what Allah has provided you, the kuffar say, why should we spend for those people? If Allah wanted them to eat, Allah would feed them. Okay? And so here you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing this ugliness as a quality of kuffar, as a quality of the people of Jahannam. Okay? It is not a quality of Islam. It is not a quality of a mu'min. Okay? And this verse then is a direct attack on what we call, economic Darwinism, social Darwinism, okay, where the law is live and let die, okay? And believe me, you have tons of Muslims out there who think exactly like that, okay? We are not animals. We are human beings, and we are social beings. We are supposed to be moral beings, but you can't be that way in a cold-hearted system, or when you allow the cold-hearted system to dictate how you live and what you do, okay? Capitalism produces, okay, an extremely wealthy, what I call leisure class. These are people who literally, they do not have to work a single day in their lives. They have all the people who work working for them, and the money just, is funneled upward to someone like Jeff Bezos or the Kochs or whoever. When they already have so much money, I think, I've calculated something like, someone who has a single $1 billion, $1 billion, you can spend something like $7,000 a day for 40 years, okay? If you didn't make one more dollar, okay, it's gross, it's disgusting, that kind of wealth accumulation. But also, then, the nature of capitalism as a cutthroat system, it gives rise to people who are psychopathic, okay? They literally do not care about human beings living or dying, okay? They don't care that they profit off of death. And that's what we're seeing all throughout capitalism today. That was what I was talking about earlier with these pharmaceutical companies, profiting off of people's catastrophes, okay? How many people are making billions and billions off of war, okay? This whole defense industry is not defense, it's going out and attacking people and destroying their countries, and it's mostly about somebody's profits, because we've seen over and over again that all of these wars are based on lies, okay? There is no, they will have some propaganda trying to justify it morally, but we know that that's all fabricated. But then this corrupt, psychopathic class of the ultra wealthy, then they use a tiny bit of their wealth to bribe politicians, to pay politicians, to corrupt the entire government at all levels, to keep screwing the people, to keep controlling the people, and to keep the wealth flowing up away from the workers who earn it toward the leisure class who sits on their ass their entire lives, okay? So you couldn't have this kind of corruption without extreme wealth, okay? Now, of course, we need to get into propaganda, and that's a big part of the problem of the working class people, and a big part of the problem among Muslims. Of course there's propaganda. It's a criminal system, and who is going to generate all kinds of talk, blah, 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 to defend the way the system works, okay? Of course they are. And 99% of the people buy it. 99% of the people believe it, okay? So they will propagate, they will give propaganda. See, it's about freedom. It's not freedom. That's the whole stupid idea of libertarianism. The thing is, they don't give a damn about your freedom, my freedom, people's freedom. Doesn't have anything to do with it. Okay? They want absolute freedom for themselves to profit. That's the only freedom they're talking about, and that's why they corrupt the government. And that can get so extreme, you can see it in how climate change denial operated. Okay, oil companies hired professional liars to present fake evidence that climate change was not real or was not related to fossil fuels. Okay, so you can see it. And how could they do that without tremendous wealth? Okay, that's how capitalist propaganda works, and it's everywhere. If you look at wars, it's the same thing. All right, if you look at the medical system right now, why the United States will not socialize their healthcare system. Go read their propaganda, okay? But working class people, you should not believe this garbage, okay? And Muslims also, you have to know. Rich Muslims also generate propaganda. Of course they do, okay? It's wealth corrupts. And corrupt people love to defend their status. And it doesn't matter Muslim or not. So you have to be smart and understand this. I'm going to cut this session off, inshallah, and come back and continue the next part. Assalamu alaikum.